JB here. Hope everybody's doing outstanding. April 23rd, 3:10 on this fine Wednesday afternoon. Talk quick about the markets, some names I'm looking at, go from there. S&P off the highs of the day, still up 1.6%. Doesn't feel like it, uh, but it's held up so far, thankfully. So we got 50 minutes to the close. We'll see if that continues. It's exhausting. I keep tweeting about some things because it's as much. I want to add some spec lotto calls. At the same token, I mean, we could reverse. We can be down 3% tomorrow, right? So to me, I don't want to ruin a good week. I'll probably just stand pat on what I have. Uh, but yeah, it's frustrating. It's like when you trade the market long enough, like you wanna be in calls or puts and make a great trade based on fundamentals, technicals, that you're right about a a trend or the whatever. You don't want to be right or wrong because the POTUS wakes up in the morning and his over easy egg is running all over his plate and he's upset and then he decides to go on a tirade on Powell, right? I mean, I hate to say it like that, and I'm not trying to be political or whatever. Just that's what it feels like. It seems like Friday he's mad at Powell. Yesterday he says he had no intention of firing. I mean, I'm pretty sure he said that he wanted to fire Powell, right? I can't wait for him to be, he can't be terminated soon enough. Soon enough. I think that was the quote, right? And then yesterday he had no intention. So it's just, you got to take the market for how it's trading right now, right? You can't change it, you can't control it. All you can do is try and make the best decisions based on everything that's going on. I've been trying to save, I guess conserve capital by not being in puts, right? And then when the market does have weakness, I get some SQQ calls as a hedge, and those sometimes they pay off, and sometimes they just like this week they provide protection, so I can get calls, and I'll continue to do that until things get resolved here. But you have to, where is he getting those eggs from? Yeah, well, I mean, he had 50,000 eggs at the egg roll, right? So I'm sure maybe he got one of those. Hey, I'm not trying to. Again, I'm not trying to hear people. I'm just a trader. It's exhausting, right? If you were in 2018, we had the same kind of situation with the China tariffs. I mean, there was days intraday there would be a headline or a tweet come out. I think it was tweets that he was doing because back he was more vocal on Twitter than now he's on social, whatever that is, True Social. I mean, I remember one afternoon you're sitting in calls, and next thing you know, the market's down 2.5%, right? So uh, it's just not it's not. I mean, it's fun environment when you're on the right side of it, right? So this this week so far, thankfully, lucky, preparations when lucky luck is when preparation meets opportunity. That's pretty much how this week has been. Uh, hopefully that trend continues, but you have to think now. I was saying on the watch list too. Maybe we get a tradable range. I don't know if that's 530 and 545. I think I had that on the watch list this morning as the range, or maybe it was 547. That 536.70, that was the gap from the tariff news. The next day, I don't know if that's going to be a spot. The crazy numbers, we could just as easily go green to red today, and it won't be surprising. We go back down to 510 on the spy, it won't be surprising. So I just hope there's more clarity, erase some of this uncertainty that's going around where we're not headline driven, and now we can the market can kind of like figure out, okay, what are the ramifications for deal XX and deal YY and deal ZZ, and once that happens, then maybe we can figure out, hey, do we want to, do I want to be long on some names? Do I want to try and get some longer call positions on some out of the money positions on some of these names, uh, or just continue to wait and be patient? And for now, that's kind of the camp I'm in, is continue to be patient. So I made that little meme before: tariff on, tariff off. That's just how it feels like, right? I mean, we have that on coffee. I think it was like the Coffee Foundation or something did a little tweet saying, "Thank you, administration, for listening to our call to not do tariffs on coffee." Right? So I mean, there's so many little intricacies that go on with all the trade globally. Like I think coffee is like a 99% imported product, right? I think that's the case. Maybe I'm wrong with my numbers. Um, so if that's the case, then you look at all the people who prepare and do all that stuff in the U.S. that their jobs rely on coffee. As crazy as the U.S. is, and how much coffee we drink. So there's all these little things that nobody thinks about until eventually they come to a head, right? So I'm just hoping we don't get down that hill and we go too far down that hill where it's the path of no return, and those things start to crop up where there's no turning back, right? So again, I keep saying that. I hope we're not in that situation, but I got to be open to both sides until we get more clarity. All right, so that's kind of the market there. Take a look at the SPY. I mean, again, all the way up to 545 and change in the early morning, reversed the gains, a $10 reversal, and then we've been chopping ever since between 534 and 536. So that's a good thing. And then I talk about this gap fill, so hopefully this is the spot we want to kind of like hold. So I hopefully get back over that 536.70 into the close. You can make patterns, W's, head and shoulders, however you want to call it out there. But I mean, if you stare at that chart long enough, right, maybe squint your eyes a little bit, you can make out a head and shoulders pattern, right? So we got the bottom side, you got the first shoulder, back side, next shoulder, and maybe we got to play. I don't know. So inverted head and shoulders. All right. So that's kind of the overall market too. And then the VIX. I mean, you would think, considering today's move, the VIX would be solidly under 30. It was for a while. Hit 27, but now it's only down 5.5%, still right near that 30 handle. So actually, I don't have the VIX right up on the main streamer. 28.94. So, hopefully that reverses course. And then some other thing, right? You would think with the market's move today, the breadth, however you want to pronounce it, the amount of stocks on the S&P trading over their 200-day moving average would be substantially higher than it was to start the week, and that isn't the case yet. So again, just not the trend, right? The trend is your friend. I'd like to see the trend start to point to more upside, and for now it's slippery slope. All right, so that's kind of the overall market. I was trying to think what I was gonna. Oh, so we get earnings after the close today. IBM, ServiceNow. I was looking at IBM. It's had. I think I used to trade IBM when it was $100, and I'm like, one of these days, Big Blue is going to be a turnaround. They've done so many stock buybacks over the years that there's the company was declining on revenue on a year-over-year basis for like 5 years, and then finally they start to turn the corner. And of course, the time I didn't play calls, and it's really start to rocket. Now you look, it's like I think it's 245 right now. I was looking, you got to go all the way up to like the 265, 270 strikes, and even that they're kind of pricey. So not a name I'll trade, although it's kind of holding up well considering. ServiceNow, similar. I mean, they always have high priced premiums, so that one's a tough one to trade. So I'm not going to trade that one, but definitely ones to note. Also, CMG. CMG actually looks interesting. And if you look at the calls on CMG, and CMG I haven't traded post split, but the premiums have gone bonkers on the weekly strikes. The stock's up 2.8%, but then you look at like the 53 strikes, they're up 130%. So typically you don't see that uh, into earnings, but premium build. People maybe, and you take a look at the call action, 53,000 calls, 59,000 puts. So it's not like there's more calls than puts. That looks interesting. Like if I was wanted to put some risk on today, the 53 strikes look interesting there. Oh no, 54. It's 32 by 36. I love the CMG story. Ever since before Eagle Eye, I like the CMG story. During Eagle Eye, I didn't like it, and then after it, I mean, it's a cash rich company, huge growth, does great things. But in this environment, I'm probably not going to put risk on on that one. But those are the earnings. Then tomorrow, Intel, Google, definitely going to be ones to watch. All right, so now individual names, and today is one of those days. Hopefully they happen more often than not. But some great multi-baggers at the open. Reddit, I mean, it was $90, 90 and change when I got the calls on Monday. 2 days later, the stock was gapping over 110 in the morning. The frustrating thing is the option market, right? Here we are in this day and age. Back in the day, there used to be options only traded every, the expiration was the third Friday of every month. There wasn't daily ones, there wasn't weekly ones, right? And the options market usually open at 9 o'clock. Now we have indexes, stocks, everything trading pretty much 24/7, and option markets on some of these names don't open right away. And today, Reddit and Restoration Hardware both didn't open. Restoration Hardware, Reddit opened at 9:36, and Restoration Hardware opened at like 9:37. To me, like if you think about, they always talk about trying to protect the retail investor. Here it is, the market makers they see all the orders of people buying the underlying stock, right? Buying the stock, and then they probably know what the open interest is. They can play games and then hold the option market until they figure out how they can make some money. It's just the craziest stuff. I don't see how you can, not have that open at 9:30. But that was the case with Reddit. Thankfully, that didn't tank, and it was over 110. I'm like, part of the plan that the watch list was close some more out right at the open. I was able to get some out for 1,200%. I held the rest. It was up. It was almost hit 13. What was it? 13.55, and I had the last out for $10, and I think it was at 7 by 9. The strikes went to, and then it reversed. And here it is. It's back up, still up 10 bags on the calls. I'll just hold those because I was saying it yesterday and today. I think the premium is going to hold up with Google earnings. And then if Google has a decent report and the market's holding up, I think I look at Reddit, I'm like, maybe it goes to 120, right? So I'll hold the rest of those. I mean, obviously the risk is it doesn't, right? It goes back under 100 bucks. And last of my calls, but I only have a few of those left. But really nice one there on Reddit. And then Restoration Hardware, similar story. I mean, it was gapping at the open, it was 189, 190. I'm like, come on, option market, open, because it's not the most liquid name, even not only with the options, but the underlying stock too. It's not, doesn't have a lot of, it doesn't have, 5 million shares trading every day. So thankfully that held up. The option market opened right after the Reddit market opened. Able to lock some of my calls in for 400% and the last for close to 800%. I just held the last few. Sure enough, of course, in hindsight, but should I've closed them out all out, I guess. But I still think there's an opportunity here, especially if there's any kind of overnight news in China that it won't take much for Restoration Hardware to be, well, it's actually called RH, but RH Holdings, I guess. I wouldn't be surprised if there's any news or update. It could be into the 200. So I'll hold the rest for that possible outcome. But another monster one. Um, just add those yesterday too. Then First Solar. I mean, so you had end phase earnings, which it's not really apples to apples in regards to First Solar, but it kind of gives some, I guess, a guide for the sector. So that was actually holding up in the pre-market and early morning, and then just gave back the gains. Again, reports earnings next week. I'm not going to add any more strikes just yet, but still like that one for upside. Paid out nice yesterday again. In hindsight, probably should I've closed all my calls at the highs yesterday when the calls were up 400%, possibly, but I did lock most of those in, so riding those with some profits. And then earlier today, Tesla, so ran up into the open in the green, gave back some of the gains by about 945 down to 245, and then it started to bounce. And then I was looking, and the calls look inexpensive on a risk reward basis if there's some follow through. I remember, I keep bringing up the October move, but I'm like, this thing can't bounce, this thing can't move. And the October earnings weren't the greatest earnings. It was more, again, like peak negativity around the stock. And then all it took was a little spark and it just took off. And so I went and got those 285s. It ran up, it was like 257, 258, and it kept struggling, 256, and back up to 2. And it just looked like it wasn't breaking through. And I didn't want to be in a spot where the premiums creeped out, so I closed them out for a small gain. I don't know if I'll revisit, maybe tomorrow, Friday, as a lotto. That's that. And of course, come on, SPY, just hold 536. Doesn't look like it's going to do it. And then just some other names here. GPCR still in the green here, was up to almost 2.6%, but I don't have the updated amount, 2.47%. Still watching that one. I'll just hold on to that. Yeah, I mean, it's, just the market just doesn't, it's like, it's tough to sit there and be confident that tomorrow could be another green day, right? We could be down 3% today. I would not be surprised. I mean, we could be up 3%. And that's why it makes it tough to keep things small. Small becomes big in this environment, and big becomes small very quickly. GameStop, disappointing. I mean, the good thing is it's off its lows all the way down to 27. No news, no catalyst, and that's even with Bitcoin being relatively strong again. The irony is they used to make this big argument that Bitcoin was not going to be a store of value because it was so volatile. There's no way Bitcoin could ever become a store of value because of its volatility. And here it is, up 1.77%, while gold is trading down 3-4% today, right? I mean, the irony and the people, and I don't like to mention Peter Schiff too much. Well, I do, but I mean, he's been right on gold, right? I mean, all-time highs this week, but he's one of those people, right? If he had just put 1% of his gold that he's been pumping since 800 bucks into Bitcoin, I mean, but needless to say, he's one of those people always makes those arguments, and then it's like he's in an asset that if you read his stuff, it's like you're betting for the U.S. economy to go to crash, the U.S. dollar to not be the reserve currency anymore. All these things, all these negative things for the American consumer to happen for gold to continue to do well, right? So it's like, what kind of asset you want to hold that in order for it to go up, these outcomes need to happen that are negative for you, for either you or people or their families, right? Just that's why I always say with this being short and being in puts, like I unless I 100% know, even when you trade, you don't 100% know, but if you have a very high confidence that the market's going to really be in big trouble over the next couple months, and you get puts, then so be it. But it's like you don't want to root for that because most people I know you have investments that are all tied to everything's tied together. If the market really crashes, it usually is not a good thing for 401ks, for even real estate, things like that. So um, all right, I think that's my rant here. We got 35 minutes to the close. Spies here at 5:34. I keep talking about the bio names too, and they were showing strength at the open. The IBB was all the way up to 124. That gave back a lot of the gains today. I was looking at Biogen, that's in the red. So thankfully I didn't get those calls. Regeneron too, all the way up over $600. That gave back the game. So maybe today's not the day for the bio names. At some point, I'll certainly be looking for some opportunities to play those. I'm trying to think of some of the other names I have on watch. I think that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.